little culture of creatures, and then you start putting the ducks in. And when 50% of them die, that's your LD50. So I use that in my presentations. When 50% of you are falling asleep, I'll stop there. So anyway, changing tropical ecosystems. This is the big hot topic. Ever since last year, we started talking about this in here. ATBC, the Association for Tropical Biology and Conservation, is deeply involved in figuring out how tropical ecosystems are changing and what are we going to do about it. Here's a quick picture of what land use change looks in Costa Rica. 1979, green is forest, yellow is pasture, red is crops, and black, some of the black dots are towns. This is a picture in 1979. Okay, that's not too long ago. I was already halfway through college when I was this picture. So most of the country was. Can you find a Selva there? Remember that little shape? Okay, we'll see. This is what happened less than 10 years later. The fragmentation of this forest is so severe, it was so fast, that Costa Rica, the eco-country, the Switzerland of Central America, right, had one of the highest deforestation rates in all of the Americas. That's how fast this was happening. Look at the pastures disappearing. This is in 1992. Bunch of little pieces now. And finally, the picture right now, it looks at the country level more like that. Now you can find what's out. We have still fairly extensive patches, which are parks and the big national parks, but the grass is fragmented very severely. At this scale, you don't see it very much, so let's look a little closer. This is the same sequence, but with La Selva here. And this is 79. This is 30 years after Aldrich, more than 30 years after Aldrich came here. La Selva was already established, and look how much forest there was. You didn't have to worry about, impacts, outside impacts on La Selva. You worry about impacts of the researchers on La Selva, so they didn't do too much on that. But there was already the signs, a lot of deforestation going towards the coast, a lot of pastures being open, cattle was meat, and there was a lot of market for that. This is what happened in '86. It's fast. This is 8 years, okay? or 7 years. And the fragmentation is already isolated pieces of forest all around. Then something interesting happened. And I was here to see this and actually see it evolving in the press, which was a little scary. In the 90s, we got more forest. Look at this area, okay? These paths of obliteration of the forest, but now, wow, big patches of forest, problem solved. What happened? Did we change our ways? We stopped cutting the forest? No, we changed the definition of what a forest was. And now a teak plantation is a forest. A cocoa plantation is a forest. A palm plantation is a forest. Which they're not. They're plantations. They're there for extracting something. Teak is going to be cut. And a single monoculture is not a forest. It's a bunch of trees. It's not a forest. So that created a whole big hullabaloo in the international community. And when I go into this part of the presentation and I'm talking to Costa Ricans, they get really mad at me because I don't know, that's not what we do. Costa Ricans are very sensitive to their image, but they can do really stupid things like that. The reality was this. This is where we were going, and the fragmentation is severe. And this hasn't stopped. Costa Rica does not lack laws to protect the environment. It's got some of the best legislative packages that I've ever seen in a Latin American country. Better than the U.S. The laws are there. It's prohibited to deforest. Period. 100% prohibited to deforest. Okay? Something's not right. It's prohibited to hunt. Sports hunting was outlawed in Costa Rica. It's a crime to do sports hunting in Costa Rica. It's not allowed. You cannot hunt in the sports hunting. It still happens. So it's not the lack of laws, it's the lack of enforcement and the lack of understanding why those laws are there and following. there are other ways to the forest. You know, legal, what they call raleo, which is thinning. You have your parcel and you have your forest in there, but you know, you want to expand a little bit over there, and then you just thin, and you're cutting saplings and you're cutting things, so you're literally eliminating pieces of the forest. Then the trees are more open, so that tree now is not in the forest, it's kind of in an edge, and then the lightning comes in and the tree's strong. Now you get the trees down, so you can nice little cut it, or the wind knock it down. Might as well make the boards out of it. I need a tree for my house, so I'm gonna cut. It continues on and on like with termites. That is a big issue. And the biggest issue for us is what's happening around. So here's a picture again. What's happening around is that this is a hugely dynamic system. Now it's not cattle. There's not a, people are not buying Costa Rican beef anymore like they did before. So all those ranchers that have pasture either abandon them or turn them into something else. And right now, in this 5 years, this is what that's something else is. Pineapple. Pineapple is the big cash crop right now. It's heavily subsidized, it's promoted. You can grow pineapples on top of the stable because everything comes out, the soil doesn't mean anything, it's just mounded, trenches so the water goes away. So your pineapples are easy to get to and easy to cut, and it's an incredibly destructive type of, and unhealthy. I don't eat the pineapple. I love pineapple. I don't eat the pineapples unless I know that they're organic because of the amount of pesticides that go into it. Eventually this is going to end and it's going to be switched by something else. That something else is what we need to focus on. Is it going to be another thing? Is it going to be passion fruit? I don't know. What is it going to be? Is it another cultivar or is it forest? Is there a way that I can make the forest as valuable standing as it is now down? Because what are the three values of the forest? Meat, wood, and dirt. That's it. For an economist, that's what forest is worth. The wood I can get out of it, the meat I can grow in it, in the pastures, or the crops, the dirt, the things that I can put in the dirt. The crops, buildings, houses, country clubs, whatever. Those three are the values, easy to quantify, easy to justify. The economy works around that, and Costa Rican's economy works on that as well. And I want my wood. I want my nice little bed. I love this floor. I love my tables, and I love my pineapples maybe. But you know, it's not like you want to do without that and become monkeys in the forest. It's like there is a balance. How do I make the forest more valuable standing than that? So that might be the land use change that needs to happen. We see how it could happen. This photo, what is in green is what is within the boundaries of the protected area. What is in red is the remaining patches of forest of the last year that are not inside a protected area, but they are close and attached to a protected area. This is what's disappearing fast. Because there's no incentives to keep it. Especially if you're a small landowner, you have a little patch of forest, and it already was harvested once or secondary. What incentive do you have to do that? Oh, you have now payment for environmental services. Hey, that's a great value. PSA, payment for environmental services. PSA is expansion. How much is that? Well, 600. We can give you $600 per hectare per year. Okay, that's good. How much can I get out of a hectare in pineapple? Ooh, 10 times more, maybe 40 times more. So the incentive is not there. And if you have a little patch, it doesn't count. You have to have more than 100 hectares to be able to qualify. So the tools are starting to evolve, but they're not yet at the level that it can compete with the ecotourism. Start thinking of the other values. Yeah, environmental services are one, but ecotourism, yeah. Are we promoting ecotourism? Well, we have a lot of it, but it's for people that have a lot of money to invest. A little rancher, a little farmer that has 20 hectares, and 10 of them are in forest, it's just not going to make it. It's got to go through 100 hoops to make a little lodge at the top. So we're starting to think that in that term, but there are other ways that I can make this as valuable or more than 20. And that's where our challenge is. Part of this presentation I used for the hydrology, and I just want to show you some of the hydrology that is associated with us, because I'm working on the level of the watershed. The because that's the only natural feature of the landscape that means something. You know, the rest are political boundaries. All of these are political boundaries. All of these are political boundaries. Why? Because that's the land that was for sale, and that's what I could buy. But biologically, it doesn't mean anything. The worst boundary that I can think of for a protected area is a river. Why? Because I didn't protect half a river. Oh, this half is protected. Fish come on this side. If you protected the other side, you can fish. No, you can't do that. So most of our boundaries do not conform to the watershed, and then we have to create a lot of the problem. The boundary between Costa Rica and Nicaragua is a river. You can't think of a worse boundary between two countries than a river. It changes every day. Every storm, the boundary is going to change. Imagine if that happens in your backyard with your neighbor. That today your fence is here, but tomorrow the fence is over there, and 3 days later the fence moves this way. It's like, you know, how you going to manage your land? The fence keeps moving. You know? And we do that for countries and for states. Another view of the watershed, the Sarapini River and the Selva. These are the patches of secondary forest, abandoned pasture, and little primary forest that have been selected for special types of management. And this is Fundecor, which is the foundation for the Cordillera Volcánica Central, the central Cordillera. And what they do is they try to promote the preservation of those forests. And they've done that, the government has done that by putting a big wildlife corridor between them, which is just the lines in the ground. What I see here is a huge opportunity to really connect these to the rivers, and that's why I'm showing you the rivers. Look at all of these little pieces of property. What do they have in common? They're all connected by one river. So what if I take 5 meters on each side of the river and protect that? Which by law is actually 20 meters. But let's not go talk a while. Because there's a landowner associated with that 5 meters. And they're growing pineapples, okay? And so I'm gonna negotiate with them. Let's follow the law. Here it is. The law says this. Let's just follow it. I'm gonna help you out. Let's protect that little edge. And we'll bring your trees, we'll help you with the fence. But my cows have to go to the river to drink water. No, they really don't. It's not a good idea for the cows to drink another river. We'll put you the water trough. So we invest in your property so we can have that 5, 6 meters and see what happens. Tell you what's going to happen. That becomes an instant wildlife corridor once there's cover. Think of a golf course and the trees between the greens. Okay? There have been pumas associated with using those as wildlife. Pumas, mountain lions. Okay? Because all they need is a little bit of cover. We have ocelots using this corridor and going underneath the bridge. And we can stand, one night we stand 5 or 6 of us with flashlights looking at the ocelot, which was 1 foot inside the forest, looking at all those bright lights here, how cool, and my own light show. It's safe because it's inside that little corridor. It doesn't take a mile-wide path for animals to use it. So you really want to connect this genetically and use the corridors from the river. This one's connected to this one is connected to this one. All of these can be connected using the rivers of storage. That's the type of thinking that I'm trying to promote right now. Practical thinking. Use what you already have. Use the corridors that already exist. Use the laws that you already have. Bring in the money. Make it worthwhile for that guy. So, hey, I got a fence. I got a water trough. They come in and planted the trees, and I'm getting a little bit of money every year just to maintain it and make sure that it doesn't get cut. He's paying me to be in trees. And then the next door guy's like, I want that too. And little to little, you will make that difference. It's all about the topics, what's making the difference in your life. This is a Selva hydrology. We don't want to go through this. Flood. You know, part of the knowing the watershed is knowing where the water is going to go when the 100-year event hits, and this is a little island that stays dry in here when it rains. This is the Sura, that little creek that you cross to go. It has a very different chemistry, very different dynamics than the main river. So you see it one day like this, and the next day it could be like that. And a lot of that water will come from the top. Rain that happens in the Browlica region and then comes down, and there's enormous amounts of water throughout the levels, and look how close it is to the bridge. It's kind of cool to see this process. We use the rivers a lot. There's a burgeoning ecotourism on the rivers, and we're working with the boat drivers so they understand the impact that they can have, positive as well as negative. This D River already has a good business on whitewater rafting and things like that. This is why cows shouldn't be in the river. Right downstream from this, the kids are swimming. So this is the kind of message that you can tell people. You want your kids to swim in cow poop and eat? Totally not. Rivers have a very special place in Costa Rican's culture. Semana Santa, Holy Week, what's called Easter, everybody goes to the rivers. On weekend, everybody goes to the rivers. They're already even a religious part of the country, experiencing the culture. That's the leverage. That's the kind of little thing they said. Leverage. I could use that to tap into a community about protecting the sewer margins of the rivers and make a difference. They use them. They love this same area is used by river otters who do exactly the same. They go up the bank and they slide down the toboggan, and then the kids come to the weekend and do the same. So, this is what we're trying to avoid. The boaters come in and they have 4-cycle engines, really cool, quiet, up the river. They're watching wildlife. It's wonderful. Okay, time's up. Gun it down the river, and then go back as quickly as possible so you can get your next group. This is something that never happens on that river. Waves. And those waves are disrupting all of the cichlid nests and all of the nesting, all of the wading birds, everything that is happening in the river is disrupted. So we're working with them to about that. And this is that big wildlife corridor that I was saying. And, they created this by decree, to up on top of people. A lot of people got this stuff. Then they put this wildlife corridor on top. More people got this stuff. And now, they burn the signs and all that. Let's change strategies. You see something is not working, don't keep doing it. It's just not going to get better if you keep doing it if it's not working. If you're in a hole, stop digging. So the final topic is what's coming. We know what the problems are right now. We have still deforestation. We have a lack of environmental education. We have an impact that we potentially could have as a station, as an institution, that has not been realized because we were very focused inside to what we're doing and focused on the science and the scientists. Oh, the scientists have 4,000 papers to read. How long will it take you to read 4,000 papers? But the people don't have anything. So we got together 55 universities in here last year, and we looked at what were the American conditions. What do you notice about the 3 top, out of the over 150 topics that came out in that meeting? Everybody voted. Everybody wrote the top 2 and the second 3, 5 per person, times 55. Put them on blackboards, and everybody voted on what were the top ones. And we did that whole exercise. These are the top 3. What do you notice about this top 3? Long-term change in climate, restoration, management. This is all people stuff. This is not about the frogs' reproductive systems or the forest structure and functioning and carbon budgets. It's all about how we're going to deal with long-term change. How we're going to deal with not stopping deforestation, changing. When I hear let's reduce the rate of reforestation, imagine going to the doctor and say, "Doctor, I have a really bad headache. I'm going to give you some pills that's going to give you a little headache. So your bad headache is going to be less bad, but I'm not going to get it away. You're still going to have a headache, but it's a little less bad. Are you happy with that, doctor? I'm not. Less deforestation is still deforestation. Less bad is still bad. So let's go to 0. Let's stop the rate of deforestation. Are you happy with that? No, me neither. You've already lost 80% or 70% of the forest outside of the protected areas. I'm not happy with that. I want more. that it's changing. So it's not less, it's not zero, it's more of a good thing. And if we figure out that the forests are a good thing, then that's what we need to do. That's the story. And we have the data, damn it. We have the data to say that they're so critically important for climate change, for human health, for the biodiversity, for the future of medicine, all of that stuff. We have the data, which is not used. And then the management of the level of watershed and how we're going to make that sustainable in the light of change is huge. How do you adapt to the change? How are these ecosystems going to change so we can prepare for that adaptation? So what's changing in here? We have documented and have data, really solid data. Any of you, by the way, let me ask you a question, still think that climate change is something that is still debatable or still a kind of a, no, thank God, because there are still a lot of people that think that, you know, it might be a natural thing. It might be something else. We don't know. Definitely, we are the ones that are causing it. There's no doubt, 97% in the last survey, 97% of climate scientists agree that humans are the culprits of this current global warming trends. 97%, that's a pretty damn good thing. The other 3%, I don't know where they are, but 97% is a damn good statistic. So why are we still 50% of the population does not know that that's the truth and that we really have to deal with it? So these are the things that we have already seen changes in abundance or in the diversity in the forest here in La Selva. All of these groups of animals as well as some of the conditions. These are the projects that I've given you the data. Without this link, it would not have happened. So frogs and lizard declines are steady and they are documented. We have seen severe declines. We've seen them at the level of Central America and at the level of La Selva. This is Mo Donnelly in her best non-clean-up stage. Going out into the mud, I think frogs. We have seen the declines in the avian population, even though we still get a higher number of species every year. What we're seeing is species that are not supposed to be here. We saw Quetzal here a couple of years back. Quetzal, what the hell is he doing in here? Think of the cloud forest. What is a cloud forest? It's the top of that mountain, right? So I have a friend that studied in Monteverde, which is cloud forest, the trees, the patterns of forest in the mid-elevation of the trees. He actually documented the movement of certain species up the hill. And I'm not talking about, you know, Lord of the Rings trees going up the hill. But over 30 years, you have low recruitments in the bottom, high recruitment in the top. Because the conditions, the ideal niche of it is moving up because the lowlands are warming up. And the trees are literally moving up the hill. What's happened to the cloud forest? Where's it going? It's going to get squeezed out. Right now, we're almost no cloud forest conditions in the cloud forest reserve. Because it's more rainforest than cloud forest. And that pattern will continue to happen. So where are all the species going to go? And some of the species that normally would not come down to these levels are desperate. They don't have any other place to go. And you're seeing changes in those patterns. And the project streams, this is Kathy Pringle, and some of you see one of her graduate students here in the dining hall. She's done the 30-year study on streams, and it's one of the studies that I have showing you. This is the one that is scary. This is Deborah and David Clark. They were directors here for 20 years. They've been here for over 35 years. They're still active. They both retired, but they continue their research. And what they did very quickly, and I'm going to do what she did in an hour, I'm going to do in 5 minutes. So very quick. They monitored 10 tree species every month. They go over 30 years and measure very accurately the DBH of that tree. DBH is the diameter of breast height, which is sometimes 20 feet up in the air because the trees are really weird. But it doesn't matter. They just did it consistently. Actually, some of the technicians have been doing this for 15 or 20 years, so there's like zero operator errors. They know they do it exactly the same way every time. a single study, and they have followed very, very carefully how that tree is growing over 30 years, and they have 1,000 trees. They found correlations, obviously, with a whole lot of things. One of them is that these are the years. Okay? This is the mean annual diameter growth of those trees, and this is the amount of rainfall. So what does this tell you? Okay, you get more rain, the tree grows more. Kind of a duh. But yeah, it's a data duh. Okay, now after you see the data, it's like, yeah, right. Now it's just not like, I think that if you give more water, it's going to go better. But in the wetter years, like 2000, where we have 14 inches of rain during this period, which is the dry season, the more water, the more they grew. And you can see that in the trees. So this is good, very cool, confirmed our hypothesis. This was unexpected. Same thing, years in here. This is the tree growth. This is the daily minimum temperature. This is how warm it gets at night in the soil. Okay? So this, look at the difference. 20 to 20. This is 2.5 degrees. Actually, it's 2 degrees. Okay? In between. So when there's warmer, when the daily minimum temperature is higher, the trees grow less. That wasn't expected. At this level, just 1 degree is making the trees literally stop growing. What's happening in there? This was really, really a moment of pause. Warmer temperatures at night, it doesn't cool off enough for the tree to grow, basically. So here's what a drought looks like in La Selva. And droughts tend to warm up the soil as well. So you have many of these, the soil doesn't cool enough at night, and you're going to have warmer temperatures. Okay. Now, part 2 of the puzzle, CO2. We know this is real data. Again, I puzzle to no end why people listen to Michael Crichton and to Fox News instead of listening to the scientists. I have no idea why we lost the respect for science in the last 20 years, but I have some ideas why. I do have an idea. But anyway, this is what CO2 has been doing in the atmosphere in the last 10,000 years. This is by now. This is from the 1800s to the 2000s. It's quite intense, the amount of CO2 that's going on from there. This is what temperature is doing. This is the variation in temperature. Before the 1940s, most of the time it was cooler than average. This is what it means. Since 1980 or so, consistently it's been warmer than average. So we changed the pattern. It's getting warmer, and it's getting warmer than average more and more often. Okay? The last 1,000 years ago, that's what we have. This is globally annual deviation from the average. It just gets warmer and warmer and warmer. So now we don't have the low average. Of the last 10 years, I mean, it's like the last 10 years have been the, 5 of the warmest years ever, and all those statistics are available out there. So, and these are global. You cannot use this little point in Alaska where it's different. That doesn't mean. I use this one with classes. If you don't know where carbon and all the gases come from, look how much of the global carbon in the atmosphere is coming from fossil fuels. So if you need data to document that, this is where it's coming. A lot of it from deforestation, that's human. A lot of it is from fossil fuel. Others, yeah, that's true. Forests are the big storage. What the 2 big sinks for carbon? The storage of the carbon. When it's not in the atmosphere, where is it? It's in the forest or it's in the ocean? We know what we're doing to the ocean. So this is what we're doing to the forest. So a lot of the carbon comes in through photosynthesis into these pieces, trunks, branches, foliage. There's biomass in the soil, a lot of carbon there. Carbon gets transferred in the soil from this to organic and inorganic, and then some of it gets released back through respiration and decomposition releases carbon. So this cycle is happening all the time. That balance between respiration and photosynthesis is what keeps that sink happening. What is happening to this sink? It's less and less and less. We're making it smaller. The sink in the ocean is making it less efficient and more complicated for it to do its job. So here's the final theory. So when you put all of these things, the carbon story, the temperature story, the forest story, all of those pieces that we talked about, how the forest is disappearing quickly and the fragmentation, how the carbon is being accumulated and we're not stopping. Even if we stop using fossil fuels right now, the carbon's still going to go up. The temperature's still going to go up. It's just how much higher we're going to let it go where we are right now. Maybe 20 years ago we could have done it. Right now it's how much more we're going to let it go before we actually do something. So this is what happens when the relationship between all those things, the plants, the carbon, and the temperature. As the temperature goes up, respiration, which is the release of CO2 basically from the plants, increases. And you expect that. Hotter, more respiration. This is what happens to photosynthesis. And at the beginning, you still have the same thing. The warmer the temperature, the plants are photosynthesizing more. Up to a point. There comes a point where it does this. And when it does this, when it crashes, you got it. What we're seeing with the temperature is that we're so darn close to this point that we're actually seeing some of the declines on the growth rates of the trees. The trees are dying. They're slowly dying. It's not like they're zapped by a lightning bolt, but they're slowly dying. They're growing less and less. When they stop growing, they might be alive a little longer, maybe 50 years or 20 years, but they're going to stop growing and they're going to start dying. We're so darn close to this that it's scary. Because then I cannot tell you what this forest is going to look like in 20, 30, 40 years. This is done by us. The trees project, if you want to see it in another way, again, this is the averages and how much you deviate from the mean of 16 years on tree growth. Most of the deviations during the first part of that study were positive, meaning that there were years where the trees grew more than the 16-year average. Most of the deviations in the 90s to now. So this already is happening. We already past the tipping point, and the forest is telling us we're growing less and less and less and less. So how are we going to deal with this? I told you already one way. This story needs to be known. People need to know the story beyond the scientific, mess of things that I put in there, in a very real way. And one real way is for you to actually go collect the data and figure it out. And guide it by somebody and figure it out. That's what we're doing with the high schools. We're bringing them in. It's a scientist for a day. Yeah, we're going to go play in the woods and we're going to do this, look at this measure. And then they do it and they learn and they're all involved. I'm being a scientist and collecting science, and then I'll sit them right there and say, we're here. This is the story. You collected the data. There's no question about the data. They did. They collected it. They can see the data point, and I put it on the picture of 30 years existing data. Say, here's you. So this is not up for doubt. It's not a matter of belief. You need to believe in it. Just collected it. You have it in there, and then you drop this shoe. We still have a positive balance. The sinks, which are the forests and the oceans, which are the green, are still able to absorb most of the carbon. And except that the carbon keeps going up, the emissions of fossil fuels. But the forests are keeping up, but not commercially. Because if you have less forest, then you're just making the sinks smaller. So this is going to start happening more and more. These are El Nino or ENSO years, El Nino events, the southern oscillation, where you get a lot more precipitation, a lot more temperature and storms. And every time you have one of those, you get damn close to exceeding the limits, so then there is a push of carbon into the atmosphere, and that doesn't come back right now. So far, so good. We have a couple of interesting moments. This is, if this pattern continues, this is not going to keep up. You won't be able to slow down the accumulation of carbon in the atmosphere. And then it's going to happen really quickly. Because then I'm going to have a 1 or 2 degree rise globally. And it's happening right now with the glaciers and all that. So this is what wraps the story down. And to me, the last thing is, so what are you going to do? And It's either getting more information, getting more involved, really become an activist, become a scientist, take a piece of it and change it, take a piece of it in your community and change that, and it's just become involved. This is our life that we're talking about. This is not just something happening in a little remote field station in Costa Rica. It's happening in all of them. So, studying tropical forests is still a really good topic. It's a growing field of research. We're learning more and more. Now we have long-term data sets. We have to keep them up so we can learn more and be able to predict what's going to happen. We have technology like the towers and Wi-Fi and all that stuff that will give us greater access, not just to information, but to people. I can reach more people with this little thing than I could ever reach before. I can take all of you in a hike in the forest, and we'll do a great little nature walk, and I take my little loop, and maybe take this 10 minutes to get everybody to see the little bug. But if I could do that with 100 people, 1,000 people, through a virtual field trip, where I'm showing 1,000 people the same thing that I could show you right in here. Use technology for spreading the stories, and it's the way that I want to go. There is no other alternative to long-term data sets. We have to make our NSFs, our departments, our deans understand that long-term data sets collected in field stations are essential for us to understand what's happening right now. And if we don't have that data, then we're not going to be able to do it. And hey, the plug for La Selva, come and do it here. We have a lot of those elements. The springboard here is very spring. We can take it further because we have an enormous foundation of data, information, and science.